What love and goodness all my life will follow after me, and in the Lord's house evermore, my dwelling place will be.
This is the Westminster Standard Podcast. I'm Ryan Beasy. Today, I am joined by the world famous filmmaker, Les Lanfear. Welcome, sir. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. This is going to be fun.
Well, I'm I'm looking forward to it as well. You are one of the editors of the Reform Pub, right? The administrators. Are you the founder of the Reform Pub?
Yeah, so many years ago, we had a podcast, and then we started the pub to be a fan club for our podcast, me and my friend Tanner. And so that's the way the group started, and it kind of blew up and became something sort of different than just a fan club for the podcast.
Yeah.
But see, yeah, and Tanner's not online anymore, not on social media, so
Right.
I own the group, if you will.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
I have been a member a couple of times. I think I still am a member, but in and out.
It has a mixed reputation.
I've enjoyed most of my time there. Well,
Me
can
too.
you tell us how you came to Christ and to the Reformed faith?
Sure. I grew up in a pretty non-religious family, and I had a good buddy that was a Christian growing up, and I would go to like Acquire the Fire with him, and I got saved a couple times at Acquire the Fire, which means I didn't actually get saved. And then when I was 19, I was living. We got an apartment together. He was going to State College, Pennsylvania. He was going to Penn State, and I was living on campus with him, and drinking like a college student, even though I didn't go to school there. And one day, I was into drugs and all this stuff. And one day, I was sort of coming down and just feeling absolutely miserable about life and my future, and just had nothing to look forward to. Very depressed. And he picked me up from where I was staying to drive us back to State College in this crappy green Jeep. A very cool memory. And he asked me what was wrong because I was so visibly depressed. And I asked him, or I said, I just want to be a good person. Like that's the best I could articulate this feeling within me. And, and I guess he took that signal and he pulled the Jeep over, and he reached in the back seat and he pulled out a Bible, and he started explaining that I'm a sinner. Jesus came and he was not a sinner, and I'm supposed to die for my sins, but Jesus volunteered to die instead. And it was that he didn't use the word substitution, but that idea. And so he explained that. And so at the end, he said, so that's what it means when people say Jesus died for your sins. And I sat there and I just kept repeating, like with just shaking my head, because it had never really made sense to me. And I just kept saying, he died for my sins. Like he actually satisfied something. And it just blew my mind. And that night I went home and I read the book of Matthew, and I just stared at my ceiling as I went to sleep. And I was saying, like, you're real. Like, so I do have a very dramatic sort of conversion. So I was in drugs, and then suddenly I'm just like quit everything, super lame to my friends, and telling everybody about Jesus. And that's when I was 19. And then shortly after that, I moved to Florida, met my wife, and yeah.
Wow. And in Spirit and Truth, Christ the King Presbyterian features somewhat prominently.
Yeah.
How did you get there? Are you still involved there?
Yep. Yeah. JC, who was the pastor I was following throughout the course of that movie, I sort of made him a central figure. He's no longer there. He's moved.
Moved back to
He's
Hawaii,
at it.
right?
Yeah, at a church in Hawaii. That's right.
Poor guy.
and we're still good friends. Awesome man of God. Our new pastor is Jason, and he's fantastic. Jason Paw. Um, yeah, so I was I I had a weird way finding. I guess most people do if they're unchurched. I ended up in the first church I ever visited was a Catholic church. I didn't even know it, and I also had no idea what that really meant. In Penn State, and then when I moved to Florida, I ended up at a house of prayer, which, if people don't know, that's like the craziest Pentecostal kind of situation. It was all women preaching. It was mostly in tongues, like very few English words were ever even used. And then everybody was just rolling on the floor, screaming and laughing. It was absolute insanity. And I knew I didn't know any different. And then I ended up in a non-denominational thing, so a little bit better. And then I ended up in a Calvary Chapel, a little bit better. And then I became a Reformed Baptist once I became a Calvinist when I was in Calvary Chapel, and they didn't want me there anymore. And then, so I was I had my heels really dug in as a Reformed Baptist. I knew my covenant theology arguments. And so when I started my podcast, even me and my friend Tanner were both Reformed Baptists, and we loved it. We celebrated it. And then I was sort of being worked on. I was visiting this church, Christ the King, in the evenings because their worship was drastically different than anything I'd ever really seen before. It was just super simple, and it was just about, the pure word of God being sung and read and preached. And so I was just sort of fascinated by it. I knew it was the right thing, but I couldn't join the church because I was going to refuse to baptize my children if I had joined. Most, even PCA churches, don't hold to that standard. I think they should, but ours, the session, that's the decision they made. And so now I had a decision to make. Do I just walk away from this church or never join it? Or do I have to reconsider this issue of baptism that I had made my mind up about, many years earlier? And so I would just debate with JC from Spirit and Truth. Every Sunday I'd go over to his house and we would just debate for hours. And then eventually I was convinced of infant baptism. And so I've been there for over 10 years.
Wow.
At Christ the King.
That's amazing. That's wonderful. And, normally we don't use dirty words on this podcast. This is a family show, but we may have to go back and edit that out. We speak of Calvinistic Baptists, not.
Oh, yeah. Yes. Of course.
No.
You ain't Reformed.
That's right. Poor
right
Scott
there with you.
Yeah. So I see some a character behind you, and you've been involved in mainstream editing and production, and tell me about that.
Yeah, so really every big opportunity in my life has been like, it hasn't made sense, and it's just been providentially that the Lord has, done things that were completely unexpected. So I never went to college. I never, I was just kind of coasting through life, and I had a job at a newspaper online division, and I would play around with video and do like motion graphics and stuff. And then out of nowhere, this guy from West Palm Beach, which is like an hour south of me, he decided to buy a visual effects studio in Los Angeles called Digital Domain. Trying to think, Cameron, the director of Terminator 2, James Cameron. James Cameron started it. This guy, John Texter in West Palm Beach, he just buys the whole studio. And then
As one does.
And I guess he really wanted to have a home base or another branch of it here in South Florida. So he bid it all over, and Port St. Lucie won the bidding war, which is the city I live in. And he just did an open call for like, does anybody know how to do anything in visual effects, or do you even know Photoshop? Come to this big event and show us what you're capable of. And I was capable of very little, but they hired a bunch of 20 somethings that I think 25 of us they hired. And the first day they're teaching us like high end uh, Hollywood software. And I started the first project I worked on was Transformers 3. And then I worked on the Smurfs, and I did some work on the girl with the dragon tattoo, which I would not recommend anybody ever watch. I've never seen the whole thing. I got about 15 minutes in and I couldn't watch it anymore. Um, and then so every once in a while, people will share my name or say, I know someone who can do it. So a studio will call me up, and so I've worked on a couple animated films beyond that. Epic is one of the coolest ones. It's about this little girl that gets shrunk down. It's an animated movie that I worked on.
Like the Indian in the cupboard.
Yes, more like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
Okay, all
Uh,
right.
she's lost in her own backyard, and she meets all these little people, and it's pretty cool.
Wow, yeah. Is that one out?
Yeah, it's been out for a while.
Oh,
My
all right. I can't. My media consumption, is basically while I'm doing dishes, I'll watch.
Sure.
I got so sorry about that. Yeah, but
That's okay.
I'll have to look it up.
Yeah, it's not a super well known. It was by it was a subsidiary of Sony, I think, but the same studio that made the Ice Age
Okay.
movies.
I've heard of that, or my kids have seen it at least.
Yeah.
And so are you still working mainstream projects as well as your own?
I don't really do like Hollywood
Yeah.
sort of stuff. Not in recent years. If anybody called me up, I'd consider it. But that's all, temporary gigs that you get flown in for a couple months. So I do a lot of freelance animation, editing, stuff like that. But for the most part, I'm concentrating on my own films.
Wow. So let's talk about that. How did you get involved with Christian filmmaking? Which usually when people say Christian filmmaking, it's but yours is is top quality. I mean, you wouldn't.
Thank you.
Other than the content, you wouldn't know that it's a Christian film. It's which I mean that as a compliment.
Great compliment.
May not have come out correctly, but
I
yeah,
appreciate that.
the graphics, the editing, the voiceover is excellent.
Thank you. Yeah, so I had a podcast. It was sort of at the crossroads of the Young Restless Reformed movement. So if you remember that, 15, 20 years ago, whatever, let's say more 15, because that's kind of around the time that I started it. And then it was also the craft beer boom. So these were both happening at the same time. And so me and my Reformed Baptist friend Tanner, or I'm sorry, Calvinistic Baptist, you're right. Yep. Keep me in check.
Say the editor some work there.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So we started this podcast where we would have a new beer, craft beer every week, and talk about theology. And it was very popular. People liked it. So I grew a pretty big audience with that podcast. When even I guess you wouldn't say podcasting was new, but it was not quite what it is today. And so after I had some jobs and I wasn't really sure what I was doing, but I was still making this podcast, I had this idea that I could make a movie essentially about the young, restless, Reformed explosion of Reformed theology becoming popular in my generation. And I knew a lot of people who shared the same experience as me. So I said, hey, I'll start a Kickstarter. I'll put together some silly trailer idea. And would people be interested in seeing a movie about Calvinism, and specifically about sort of the new renaissance of Calvinism, if you will? And people supported it. And so I raised like 200% of the budget that I asked for. And I got to fly around and interview all my heroes. And I even got R.C. Sproul in the last year of his life. And I made this film called Calvinist, which I'm very proud of.
Yeah, it's excellent. We showed it we took the youth on a retreat back in, must have been 2019. and that was the film that we showed and
Yeah,
discussed with them, and
that's great.
it's great stuff.
There's definitely some dated stuff in there, but
Yeah, some of
these
the
things happen.
yeah. And then so you made Calvinist, and then Spirit and Truth, which Calvinist, young, restless, and reformed, but Spirit and Truth is very. I know Bob Coughlin's in there, but it's very old school, ordinary means of grace, classic. Regulative principle of worship. Frank Smith is in there, which I think is delightful. Um,
Yeah,
so you give people an overview of that one. I think we're going to show it as a youth event at the church I serve now.
yeah.
I made the mistake of buying Calvinist on DVD, and we've moved since then, so I have no idea where that DVD
Oh
is.
no,
But
yeah,
I bought the digital version of Spirit and Truth, so
very good.
that's with me everywhere. It's in the cloud.
Yeah, so um I became sort of obsessed with the regulative principle and why it was so important. And so when it came time to see if I could make another movie, that was the subject I wanted to promote. So essentially, the movie is about the regulative principle,
Yeah,
and putting
it's
it
just
into the context. Go ahead.
oh, it's just such a good job of making that argument for us.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm kind of a fanboy here. Sorry.
No, that's great. It's very, I mean, it's very encouraging. So, Spirit and Truth specifically is, of all the movies I made, it's the one that people really say impacted them, changed their minds, reinforced ideas, things like that. Because yeah, Cessationist is the third movie I made. Not a lot of charismatics are just like looking forward to watching a movie that dissects their entire position.
Yeah.
And Calvinist is kind of a movie for Calvinists to celebrate Calvinism. But Spirit and Truth, I think it was like it's kind of just right. It hits mostly reformed people. That's the people that are going to be interested in watching it, and it's making them really question the way they're worshiping God.
Mm.
So that's convinced a lot of people, which I'm super thankful for.
Yeah, and the way the argument is presented, I think someone who sort of grew up in a 20th century conservative Presbyterian church, but still very influenced by Pentecostal charismatic worship, entertainment. Maybe they're singing hymns, but there still is a good bit of entertainment in the worship service. I
Hmm.
think it's soft enough that it's going to bring them to reconsider what their expectations are for worship. I love that those opening questions from, I think it's Kevin DeYoung, right?
Yeah. Yep.
People think, how would our town like to worship? How do I like to worship? And you're asking the wrong questions.
Yep. How does God want to be worshipped? That's it.
Yes. Yes, and so you have you're raising funds for a new movie, the Ruin of the Modern Woman, um, on
Yeah.
feminism.
Yeah. It's a pretty intense title, and I went back and forth on the title quite a bit, and but I just think from, especially from the vantage point, from the lens that I'm trying to approach it, I think this is the right title. So this is technically it's Deceived, subtitle The Ruin of the Modern Woman.
Okay, which is an allusion to Eve, I presume.
Yeah, even more specifically, it's to First Timothy,
Yeah.
where Paul is making the argument about why it is that women can't have authority over men or teach. And the reason that Paul gives is Adam was formed first, then Eve. So he's got sort of a creation order there. But even he goes beyond that and he says Adam was not the one deceived. It was the woman who was deceived and became a sinner. So Paul's actually supporting his point that women can't teach or exercise authority by saying that Eve is deceived. Well, that would lead us to believe there's something about the nature of woman that can be more easily deceived. So that's part of the premise behind what I'm going for here, is that this sort of mind virus was allowed to be perpetrated upon our women.
Mm.
So there's a little taste of where I'm going.
Yeah, yeah. Now, I mean, obviously, feminism is everywhere, and it has
Yeah.
ruined Western society. It has ruined whole cities and not to mention families. But why now? Why this documentary now? I know it's a cliched question. I apologize for that, but
No, it's okay.
why?
Yeah. So for years, I've been, yeah, you say it's everywhere. I actually like to say that we are all feminists.
We're all
Um,
postmodernists now. We're all feminists now.
yeah. Yeah. There's just like even the most macho patriarch guy that you know of, like if men from 500 years ago looked at us, they would be so confused by the way we behave
Hmm.
because like we've lost something about our understanding of the differences between men and women, and not just like complementarian roles,
Yeah.
like the actual nature of what women are and what men are and how we're different.
What would be some
um
examples of that where people might be able to see that in their own lives? If you can tease that out
yeah,
before the documentary.
sure. Yeah, so I mean, you have, obviously you have the feminist idea that we're essentially the same, um, except for some biological differences, hormone differences, things like that. But they're very subtle. For the most part, we're the same thing. And then on top of that, we can all do the same things, except maybe we can't have a baby or pee standing up or whatever. Like just these very, very surface level things. And then you get the complementarians, which is essentially they're trying to play sort of a middle ground, um, where they're nodding to the feminists to say, yeah, yeah, we're basically the same. And that word equality becomes so confusing because Christians want to say that men and women are equal, but we only mean it really in when we're talking about being made in the image of God, the dignity that we have before God, the way that we're saved, things like that. So we have some things in common, um, and then they would say that, but God's word says that we have different roles, we play different parts in life, which of course God's word does say that, but their position ends up essentially being we're equal in every way, but we should take on these responsibilities, because that's what's best.
Hmm.
And I guess my position would be the patriarchy position, which is to say, no, no, no. We actually have very few things in common. We are radically different in the way we think and our goals and the ways and the things we're capable of doing, at least doing well.
Hmm.
We're not built for the same spheres in life, and there actually is a woman sphere and there's a man sphere, a male sphere, like being a wage slave. That's the term I like to use right now because, like, obviously it sounds like such a bad thing, but like just having a duty to do whatever it takes to provide for a family, that's a burden that men are able to bear, and it actually brings us some satisfaction. But women weren't built for that.
Mm.
They don't like it, and it brings them zero satisfaction at the end of the day, even though they're being told to say that it brings them a lot of satisfaction.
And
And so
freedom.
they're
It
all,
brings them freedom if they're a wage slave.
exactly. Yeah. And so my point is, the more we can start to reinforce how different we actually are, and that's, and when you're speaking into the current moment, at first that sounds so bad because you're saying they're not as good at as us or whatever. But no, no, no. The beauty is we actually have gifts and we have valuable things that only women can provide to society and to the church and to families that men simply can't. And the opposite is also true. So
Mm.
if we can embrace those things, and then everybody can just start doing what they were built to do, not just the sort of little role that they play, but their actual nature is being played out. So it's just so important that we get back to that,
Mm.
because every generation before us, before the early 1900s, maybe the late 1800s, everyone understood this
Yeah.
intrinsically, and now all of a sudden we're so confused about what a man is and what a woman is.
Yeah. Yeah. Even so-called conservatives, they'll celebrate, women in the military, women as police, women as authority figures, and it just raises questions of what does it mean? What does it mean to be a conservative? What does it mean
Yeah.
to be a traditional, believe in historic roles for men and women when you're celebrating women doing jobs that are nasty, and that's why men
Yeah.
would do them. That
That's right.
it's mind blowing to me. Um, who will be, or have you sketched out who might be some of the key voices in the film? If you can talk about that.
Yeah. Um, I don't have anyone officially like on the docket, but so Michael Foster is a really good voice. He wrote a
Yeah.
really good book called "It's Good to Be a Man." Um, David Edgington wrote a book called "White Knights
Yeah.
and Reviling Wives," and I've heard that Rosario Butterfield is interested
Oh, I'm
in the
sure.
project as well. So nobody's officially like planned yet, but I have a lot of people who would be
Yeah.
willing to be a part of it.
I'm sure
Um,
Zachary Garris and his masculine Christianity would be
yes,
helpful. Whether you can get in contact with him out on the left coast, I don't know.
yeah,
Um, but
I have access to airports. I have
you
the Donald J. Trump airport is the one I would fly out of. So just so everybody knows.
well, that's good to know.
But yeah, the airport down in West Palm was recently changed to President Donald J. Trump Airport or something, international airport. It's kind of funny.
Yeah, yeah. So, and the target audience of this, again, Christians. But how are you trying to balance? Obviously, you want to rev up the base, you want to inform and fortify the base, but also have get a winsome hearing from someone who may be sympathetic to feminism.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely. I would say even the audience. Again, this all sort of changes. Especially the cool thing about what I get to do is as I start to interview my people, then they start to shape the story more than even I understood it, which is great. So the final movie could be completely different than anything that I'm saying right now. But obviously the movie is going to point us ultimately to Christ. Christ is the only solution to any of these problems at the end of the day. But even more than Christians, my audience is really men. Um, and I think that the main, I don't know, there's different solutions that people have for this problem of feminism, and how to sort of overcome it. And for me, the some people go in the direction of criticizing, saying the meanest things you can about women, and then just like nagging them into like stopping being so aggressive or quote unquote masculine. And I part of the argument that I'm going to be trying to build is that will not work. You can't, you really can't, that's not how you change behavior in women. If that might be an overstatement, but I think the real solution is to rediscover masculinity, because in this whole process what happened was feminism um, degrade, degraded and made everything that women used to be proud of and they used to understand to be their purpose, it made it sort of a gross thing, things to be ashamed of. And so doing the dishes is just a shameful thing, and nobody should have to do that. And instead we're all competing in the masculine sphere, and so women are being compared to men and competing in that. But so when that happens, that means that everything about femininity becomes less valuable, and over time women have, we can all tell, become less feminine, or at least they don't want to celebrate the idea of being feminine. And so as you lose femininity, then the polarity there is off, and so men have nothing really to fight for, to be masculine for, to show off their muscles for, and men over time became less masculine. And so you sort of end up with this this awful, they're pathetic men and nasty women, and they both are looking at each other right now in our culture. It's like a powder keg right now. Everybody just hates each other. Like divorce is happening like crazy, um, because the opposite sex is simply not exuding the qualities that we find attractive, that we were built to find attractive. And so I think, I believe the solution first and foremost is for men to rediscover masculinity, become the kinds of quality leaders that women are actually looking for, because they're not they're not impressed right now, and on one hand, rightfully so. So the more masculine we can become, the more we can, and that doesn't mean, you know, you have to have giant muscles and have a gruff voice. It just means, the actual biblical qualities that make a man. And then the next step would be leading our women back to a more satisfying position for them, where they're actually living out their nature.
Yeah. And that's something that, anyone, sociologists, pollsters can observe empirically, that women are miserable in this
Yes.
society. I think that just came out again, a study that the happiest women in American, or maybe it's Western cultures, are married women with kids.
Yes.
And because that's what women were designed for. They're not designed to chase a paycheck and the career and the pantsuit. And I think you've hit such an important point, that it's the men who have to be persuaded, because
Yeah.
a woman who said, "Well, you need to lead, you need to lead, you need to be a man," she's just a nagging woman. But
That's right.
if you can win the men, the women will see what they were made to be attracted to. And
Yeah. And
and
that's the incredible thing. Like I am, the more that I look at this topic, I am blown away by what feminism is. Like
mm,
what is this power that was able to convince an entire sex of the human race to say they don't want the things they want most deep down. They're actually doing that. And so you say they're miserable. They are absolutely miserable, and they're still being convinced to continue to say that they want the things that are making them miserable. And that brings in the whole social contagion aspect, which right now is out of control. Like every Instagram reel, every TikTok, it's like they're designed to make women hate their husbands, to hate men in general, to just keep saying they don't need men, and to be more um, individualistic, uh, and find more freedom in these feminist ideas. And so, you know, if even in my church, which very conservative, godly people, I've just seen many divorces
mm,
where there's no real basis for it. She's just reading this script. She's saying, I'm being emotionally abused and he's a narcissist. And it's like this jargon that they're all saying all of a sudden, but you can't really articulate what any of those things mean. It just means he's doing stuff I don't like. And it's just a nightmare.
mm. Wow. Wow. And so this documentary is very sorely needed. If people want to support it, they can go on Kickstarter. It looks like you're more than a third of the way to go in. What has this been up for, 2 days?
No, it's actually been up for it's been up for 23 days.
23 days.
Uh, yeah, 2 days ago we were doing pretty rough. It was way behind. We were at like less than 10%. It just wasn't catching on. And then 2 days ago, it sort of blew up. People suddenly discovered it. It got shared around. So in the past 2 days, we've gone up 20%. So really, if anybody's out there listening, if this is interesting to you, if you think this should be made, time is running out. We got 7 days left at the time of this recording. We're at 34% funded. The goal is $100,000, and so we yes, I could very much use your help, because the Lord is definitely keeping me in a state of limbo right now, where I don't know for sure if it's going to get funded, but I really hope it does.
And so if you don't make the 100,000, does Kickstarter not? Do you not get any of that?
Yeah, that's the agreement you're making. That if it doesn't get funded,
Oh,
then nobody gets charged, and I don't get anything.
oh
Yeah.
wow, wow.
Yep.
That's
So the stakes are high, people.
yeah. I did not know that. So hopefully people will chip in.
They told us we could do anything. It was as if a voice was calling to us. Equality, empowerment, freedom. We'd grow up to be confident, capable and independent. Nothing would hold us back. Nothing. And so, we left behind everything we loved. And the voice just got louder. But sometimes, deep down, we'd remember. Maybe we'd made a mistake. Maybe we had a more important purpose. But our freedom was on the line. Freedom. And all we had to do in return was sacrifice everything that made us women.
Assuming you do get funded, or how long would a project like this take before it's published?
So yeah, with this budget, it'll give me about a year to be able to fly around, do all the editing, make sure all the sound design, everything. So it should be out within a year.
Great. So if people want to get involved, there's a Kickstarter they can follow or kick in.
Yeah.
And
Just you might be able to search it. Just it's Deceived: The Ruin of the Modern Woman. If you find me on Facebook, I've posted it about 1 million times in the past month, so you'll find it.
Yeah, great. And what other ways can people be involved other than Kickstarter? Is there a GoFundMe, Give, Send, Go? How else might people?
Nope, all my eggs are in this basket. So
okay, we got one basket. All right.
Yeah. So, we've all 3 of my previous movies were funded this exact way.
Okay.
They were farther along at this point, but the momentum that I've seen in the past few days has been very encouraging, and it is possible. It definitely could happen. So, yeah, if you want to see this happen, please check it out and consider supporting the film.
Indeed. Well, Les, thank you so much for your time, and hopefully this documentary.
Yes. Thank you very much. This was great.
My pleasure. Thanks for joining the conversation on the Westminster Standard, which is the podcast of Jude 3. For more information or to support our work at promoting confessional renewal within the Presbyterian Church in America, please visit our website, jude3pca.org. Join us again next time. I'll talk to you then.